They say the most dangerous people in the city are the ones you never notice. I noticed her at booth 7. For 3 months, I served free meals to the silent, starving girl in the corner booth, never realizing she was the only heir to a criminal empire. I didn't know that Maya's silence was trauma, not shyness. I didn't know that every plate of eggs I slid across the table was an act of war against the most untouchable man in the city. And I certainly didn't know that on a cold Thursday morning, the diner doors would swing open to reveal Axel Johnson himself, flanked by men in tailored suits who moved like predators, his hand resting on his daughter's shoulder as his eyes locked onto mine with the kind of intensity that promised either salvation or destruction. When he said, "We need to talk about my daughter," I had seconds to decide: run from the danger standing in my diner, or step into the fire to protect the child who'd become my whole world. The overhead lights of Rosie's diner hummed with that electric whine that never quite goes away, casting everything in a harsh, white glow that made the cracked vinyl booths look even more tired than I felt. It was 5:47 a.m. in the warehouse district, the kind of morning where fog rolled off the river and turned the world into something gray and uncertain, which, looking back now, should have been my first warning. I caught my reflection in the chrome coffee maker. At 28, I looked older, the kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix. My dark hair was pulled back in the same tight bun I'd worn for 6 years, practical and invisible. I retied my apron, the one with my name embroidered in cursive I'd never chosen, and exhaled slowly. I needed this shift. The second job at the hospital laundry paid minimum wage, and my mother's medications had gone up again last month. "Orders dying, Elena," Marcus called from the kitchen, his voice carrying the edge of a man who'd worked the grill for 30 years and had opinions about timing. I grabbed the plates, hash browns going cold, toast already stiff, and moved through the empty diner on muscle memory. I refilled the trucker in booth 2 without him asking, wiped a table that didn't need it, and checked the clock. 5:58 a.m. Then the bell above the door chimed. I didn't need to turn around. I knew that sound. The tentative push, the careful entry, the way the cold morning air would creep across the floor. The girl was here, right on schedule. She was maybe 7, maybe 8, small enough that my heart clenched every time I saw her. Today she wore an oversized cream-colored sweater that swallowed her thin frame, sleeves hanging past her fingertips. Her light brown hair fell in soft waves around a face that never looked up, never met anyone's eyes. Her movements were practiced stealth, head down, shoulders curved inward, feet silent despite the worn leather shoes that had seen better days. She didn't walk to just any booth. Booth 7. Back corner. Near the kitchen door where the lighting was warmest and the view of the street was blocked by the old jukebox that hadn't worked since 2019. I grabbed the coffee pot as cover and drifted closer, the same dance we'd done for 93 days straight. The girl, Maya, though I'd learned that name by accident from a medical bracelet I'd glimpsed under her sleeve, never ordered, never spoke, just sat with her hands folded on the table, staring at the sugar packets like they held answers to questions I couldn't hear. "Before we start, answer me this. If you found out the starving child you'd been feeding in secret was actually a Mafia heir, would you keep protecting her or walk away to save yourself? Drop your honest answer in the comments. No judgment here. I want to know what you would do." I became a thief for a 7-year-old girl I didn't even know. It started small. An extra slice of toast I'd accidentally made. A side of bacon that fell onto her plate. Marcus never noticed, or maybe he did, and just never said anything. The kitchen at Rosie's produced enough waste that one kid's breakfast wouldn't show up on inventory. But it wasn't about the food, not really. Maya, I'd started calling her that in my head after the bracelet incident, would sit in booth 7 for exactly 43 minutes every morning. I'd timed it. She never touched the water I brought, never asked for anything, just sat there with her hands folded, staring at nothing, like she was waiting for permission to exist. The first time I slid pancakes in front of her without her ordering, she flinched. Actually flinched, like I was going to hit her. "It's okay," I'd whispered. "Nobody's watching." She didn't look at me, didn't say thank you. But after 5 full minutes of staring at that plate like it might disappear, She picked up the fork. Her hands shook so badly, I had to turn away. That was 93 days ago. Now, it was our routine. She'd come in. I'd bring food. She'd eat in complete silence while I pretended to wipe down tables nearby, just there. Present. A witness to her existence. I didn't know why she needed that. I didn't know I was marking myself for death by caring. Day 94 broke the pattern. Maya came in at 5:58 like always, but something was wrong. Her cream sweater had a dark stain on the sleeve, rust-colored, crusted at the edges. When she sat down, her hands were shaking worse than usual. I brought the pancakes. She didn't touch them. Instead, she pulled a pen from her pocket. Where did a 7-year-old get a pen? And grabbed a paper napkin. Her small fingers moved with disturbing precision, drawing lines that intersected, boxes that connected, symbols I didn't recognize. It looked like a map. "Sweetheart," I whispered, crouching beside the booth. "What is that?" She didn't answer. Just kept drawing, her breathing quick and shallow. Then she did something that made my blood run cold. She pressed her thumb against the napkin, smearing the rust-colored stain across one section of her drawing. Not rust. Blood. "Maya." She shoved the napkin toward me, her eyes finally meeting mine for the first time in 3 months. They were gray-blue and absolutely terrified. Then she ran. Not walked. Ran. Out the door and into the fog before I could stop her, leaving behind a napkin covered in what looked like a blueprint of the warehouse district, with one building marked in her own blood. I stood there holding it, my heart hammering, knowing I should throw it away. I didn't. "Okay, pause. I need to know. Would you have kept that napkin or thrown it away immediately? And, be honest, if a traumatized kid handed you what looked like a crime scene map, would you call the cops or mind your business? Drop a comment. This is where it gets really complicated." He walked in at 6:47 a.m. on a Thursday, and the entire diner forgot how to breathe. I was pouring coffee for Jenkins when the temperature dropped. Not figuratively, literally, like someone had opened a door to a freezer. The bell chimed, and every head turned. For men entered first. Not cops. Not customers. They wore suits that cost more than my yearly rent, moved with military precision, and their eyes scanned the diner like they were calculating exits and threat levels. Then he walked in. Axel Johnson. I'd never seen him before, but I knew. The way he carried himself, like gravity worked differently for him. The sharp lines of his tailored suit, dark as a funeral. The silver at his temples that somehow made him look more dangerous, not older. And his eyes. God, his eyes swept the diner with the casual authority of a man who owned everything he looked at, including apparently me. His gaze locked onto mine across the checkerboard floor, and I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. "You," he said. His voice was quiet, controlled, and somehow that made it worse. "The waitress who's been feeding my daughter." My daughter. The napkin in my apron pocket suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Marcus had gone completely still in the kitchen. The trucker in booth 2 was staring at his eggs like they were the most fascinating thing in the world. Nobody was going to help me. Nobody was going to intervene. Axel Johnson took 3 steps forward, and I watched my entire life collapse into a single choice. Tell him I don't know what he's talking about, and pray he believes me. Or tell him the truth, and find out what happens when you steal from a man who owns the shadows. "Where," he asked, each word precise as a scalpel, "is Maya?" I opened my mouth to answer Axel Johnson, but the words died in my throat. Because the front window exploded. The silence in the diner didn't just break, it shattered. When the first SUV screeched to a halt outside, Axel didn't reach for his wallet. He reached for a heavy chrome pistol. "Get her under the counter," he growled. That was the moment my life as a waitress ended. Glass erupted inward like a crystal wave, and suddenly the world was gunfire and screaming and chaos. I hit the floor on instinct, my hands covering my head as bullets punched through the vinyl booths where customers had been sitting seconds before. "Get down," one of Axel's men roared, returning fire through the shattered window. But Axel wasn't shooting. He was moving, fast, fluid, deadly, toward the back of the diner. Toward booth 7, where Maya had been sitting yesterday. where she wasn't sitting now. Maya. His voice cracked with something I never expected to hear from a man like him. Fear. More gunfire. Marcus was on the floor in the kitchen and Jenkins wasn't moving. Then I saw her. Maya. Crouched under table 3, her small body folded into itself, hands over her ears, eyes squeezed shut. I didn't think. I just moved. I crawled across the floor through broken glass and spilled coffee, grabbed her by the waist, and ran. Not toward the front, that was a death trap. Not toward Axel because whatever was happening, he was the center of it. I ran toward the kitchen, toward the back delivery door that Marcus always left unlocked for smoke breaks. Elena! Axel's voice bellowed behind me, but I didn't stop. I kicked the door open, Maya clutching my neck so tight I could barely breathe, and we burst into the alley as the diner erupted in flames behind us. I ran into the fog with a Mafia heir in my arms. And I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. We made it 6 blocks before my legs gave out. I collapsed behind a dumpster in an alley that reeked of rotting food and desperation, my lungs burning, my uniform torn and blood-stained. Maya was still wrapped around me like a frightened animal, her face buried in my shoulder. "It's okay," I gasped, even though nothing was okay. "We're safe." Where? The safe house was cold, but Maya's eyes were colder. As we sat in the shadows, she finally broke her silence. She didn't just speak. She leaned in and whispered a name that made the blood drain from my face. It wasn't just a betrayal, it was a hit list. "They'll find us." I froze. Her voice was small, hoarse from disuse, but clear. "Real." "Maya?" I pulled back to look at her face. Those gray-blue eyes were wide open now, staring at me with an intelligence that didn't belong to a 7-year-old. "You can talk." I stopped talking because talking gets people killed. Her bottom lip trembled. "Uncle Vincent said I saw things I shouldn't have. Said if I told Daddy, the whole family would burn." "Uncle Vincent. What did you see, sweetheart?" She shook her head violently, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Uncle Vincent was in Daddy's office. On the phone. He said," her voice dropped to a whisper, "he said the shipment next week would be the last one. That after Daddy was gone, he'd finally run things the right way." My blood turned to ice. "Maya, your uncle is planning to kill your father?" She nodded, fresh sobs racking her small body. "That's why I ran away. I drew the map because Uncle Vincent's men meet at the old cannery, the one by the docks. I thought if someone found it, they'd stop him, and I wouldn't have to tell. I wouldn't have to be the reason people died." I held her tighter, my mind racing. I'd just kidnapped the daughter of a Mafia boss, and she was carrying information that could start a war. Mid-story, CT. Real talk, if you were Elena right now, what's your next move? Go back to Axel and hope he doesn't kill you for taking Maya? Go to the police and risk them not believing you? Or stay hidden and try to protect this kid yourself? Comment below, because honestly, every option sounds like a death sentence to me. We didn't make it to safety. We made it 3 more blocks before the black SUV cut us off, and men in expensive suits poured out like shadows given form. I ran. God, I tried to run. But Maya was exhausted, and I was just a waitress who hadn't slept in 36 hours, and they were professionals. Strong hands yanked me backward. Someone ripped Maya from my arms, and her scream tore through the night like a knife through silk.
"No."
"Elena." "Maya." I fought, kicking, biting, but a hand clamped over my mouth, and the world went dark as a cloth pressed against my face, chemical sweet and suffocating. I woke up in a penthouse. Not a warehouse. Not some grimy basement torture room. A penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, leather furniture, and a crystal chandelier that probably cost more than my life. Maya was on a velvet couch across the room, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, her eyes red from crying. "Good. You're awake." The voice was smooth, cultured, and familiar. A man stepped into view. 50-something, silver-haired, wearing a cashmere sweater and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He looked like someone's friendly uncle. "Vincent Morelli," he introduced himself. I believe my niece has been telling you stories about me. Uncle Vincent, where are we? I demanded, my voice hoarse. My home. You're not prisoners, you're guests. His smile widened. Though I'm afraid you can't leave just yet. You see, Elena, you've become unexpectedly useful. My brother will do anything to get his daughter back. Even walk into a trap. My stomach dropped. You're using us as bait. I'm using you as motivation. He checked his watch. Axel will be here in 4 hours. And when he arrives, this whole messy business will finally be over. He left us there, locked in luxury. I looked at Maya. She looked at me. The kitchen, she whispered. There's always a service elevator in kitchens this fancy. Daddy taught me that. Smart kid. I smiled despite everything. Then let's go find it. We found the service elevator behind a false panel in Vincent's gourmet kitchen. Maya was right. But I stopped her before she could press the button. Wait. My hand trembled as I pulled out the cell phone I'd lifted from one of Vincent's guards during the struggle. There's something we need to do first. Maya's eyes went wide. You're calling him? My daddy. Your uncle is going to kill him, Maya. And probably us too. Once Axel's dead, and we're not useful anymore. I knelt down to her level. But if we warn him first, if we give him what he needs to survive this, maybe, just maybe, we can all walk out alive. I dialed the number embroidered on the card I'd found in Axel's jacket pocket when he'd leaned across the counter at the diner. My heart hammered as it rang once.
Twice.
Who is this? His voice was ice and fury. It's Elena Rodriguez, the waitress. I have your daughter. Silence. Then, if you've hurt her.
She's fine.
I've been protecting her. But we don't have much time. I took a shaky breath. Your brother Vincent has us. He's planning to ambush you when you come for Maya. The old cannery at the docks. That's where his men have been meeting. That's where the betrayal is centered. How do you know this? Because Maya saw it. She heard Vincent on the phone, planning your death. That's why she ran away. That's why she stopped talking. My voice cracked. She was trying to protect you, the only way a scared 7-year-old knew how. I heard him exhale, sharp, pained. Put her on. I handed Maya the phone. She pressed it to her ear, tears already streaming. Daddy. Her voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I ran away. Whatever Axel said made her cry harder, but she was nodding, whispering, I love you too. She handed the phone back to me. Elena. Axel's voice had changed, still dangerous, but something else underneath. Something almost human. Get Maya out of that building. I'm sending coordinates to this phone. Get her there safely, and I'll handle Vincent. Wait. I have conditions. You what? When this is over, you let her go. No Mafia. No empire. No life looking over her shoulder. My hands were shaking, but my voice held steady. You fake her death, stage her disappearance, whatever you have to do. But you let Maya have a real life. With me. Far away from all of this. The silence stretched, so long I thought he'd hung up. You're asking me to give up my daughter. I'm asking you to save her. I looked at Maya, who was watching me with those two knowing eyes. You know I'm right. You know this life will destroy her. Another long pause. Get her to safety first. Then we'll talk. The line went dead. As we pulled into the fog-filled shipping yard, I realized Axel wasn't coming to save us. He was coming to finish the job. If you would have stayed in the car or run for your life, let me know in the comments, but for me, there was no turning back. The coordinates led us to an abandoned shipping yard near the industrial port, all rusted containers and broken concrete under a sky turning gray with dawn. We'd made it out of Vincent's penthouse through the service elevator, just like Maya predicted. But Vincent's men had caught up to us 6 blocks later, and now we were running through a maze of shipping containers, gunfire echoing off metal like thunder. There, I spotted Axel's black SUV near the east entrance, flanked by his men. We just had to make it across 50 yards of open ground. 50 yards that felt like 50 miles. Stay behind me, I told Maya, gripping her hand. We ran. Halfway across, I heard the footsteps behind us. Heavy, fast, closing in. I glanced back and saw him. One of Vincent's guards, the one with the scar across his jaw, his gun raised and aimed directly at Maya's back. I didn't think. I shoved Maya forward with all my strength, screaming, "Run to your father." And I threw myself backward. The guard's gun went off, the sound impossibly loud, and white-hot pain exploded through my shoulder, spinning me around. I hit the ground hard, tasting blood and concrete. But Maya was still running, still alive. Through the haze of pain, I saw Axel catch his daughter, saw him drop to his knees and wrap her in his arms. Saw his men return fire, cutting down the guard who'd shot me. Then Axel was there, crouching beside me, his hands pressing against my shoulder to stop the bleeding. His face was inches from mine, and for the first time, I saw him clearly, not the Mafia boss, not the king of shadows. Just a father whose daughter was safe. "You stepped in front of a bullet for her," he said, his voice rough. "Yeah, well." I coughed, tasting copper. Somebody had to teach her what real love looks like. His jaw tightened. "Vincent's dead. My men found him at the cannery, right where Maya said he'd be." He looked toward where Maya stood surrounded by his guards, her eyes locked on me with desperate worry. "You were right. About everything. So, we have a deal?" Axel Johnson, the most dangerous man in the city, stared at me for a long moment. Then he nodded. "We have a deal. Mid-story CTA. Okay, I need your gut reaction. Was Elena completely insane for negotiating with a Mafia boss? Or was that the smartest move she could have made? And honestly, do you think Axel will actually keep his word about letting Maya go? Drop your thoughts below. The ending is coming, and I want to know what you think happens next. 3 months later, I stood in the kitchen of a small house in Vermont, flipping pancakes while morning light streamed through windows that didn't have bars on them. Elena. I finished my homework. Maya, now going by Emma Clark in all official documents, bounded into the kitchen with a backpack covered in rainbow patches. "Can I go to Sophie's house after school?" "If her mom says it's okay." I plated her pancakes, watching her devour them with the enthusiasm of a kid who didn't have to earn the right to eat anymore. "And you have to be back by 5 for dinner." "Deal." She threw her arms around my waist, squeezed tight, then grabbed her backpack and headed for the door. "Love you." "Love you too, sweetheart." The door closed, and I was alone with the morning quiet. On the news 3 months ago, there had been a tragic story. Maya Johnson, age 7, daughter of businessman Axel Johnson, lost in a boating accident. Body never recovered. Services held privately. The city mourned. Axel mourned publicly, his grief plastered across every newspaper. And in a lawyer's office in Vermont, a woman named Elena Rodriguez had legally adopted a girl named Emma Clark, orphaned. According to the paperwork, parents lost in a car accident. The money appeared in my account without explanation. Enough to buy this house, pay for Emma's school, cover my mother's medical bills for the next decade. Enough to never have to work double shifts at a diner again. I didn't ask where it came from. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text was simple. "How is she?" I'd received the same text every week for 3 months. I always answered the same way.
Happy.
Safe.
Free.
This time, the response was different. "Thank you for giving her what I couldn't. Tell her I love her. Even if she can't remember me." I stared at the message, my throat tight. "She remembers you," I typed back. "She just remembers the good parts. The parts worth keeping." 3 disappeared, then disappeared. Then appeared again. "That's more than I deserve. Take care of my girl, Elena. Always." The dots disappeared and didn't come back. I deleted the message, poured myself coffee, and looked out the window at the quiet street where Emma, Maya, was riding her bike to the bus stop, laughing with the neighbor kids. No guards. No shadows. No fear. Just a 7-year-old girl who'd survived hell and come out the other side with a chance to be normal. I'd stolen her from a crime boss and negotiated with the devil himself. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. So, what do you think? Was this the right ending? Should Axel have gotten to stay in Maya's life? Or was letting her go the only real act of love he could give her? Did Elena do the right thing? Or did she rob a father and daughter of their relationship? I need to know what you think. Drop your comments below, and if this story kept you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button and subscribe because I've got more stories coming that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about right and wrong. See you in the next one. Red Heart.